What's going on, guys? My name is Richard. Welcome back to the weekly watch list video sponsored by MarketSmith. For each of the stocks on my focus list, we'll go through their fundamentals as well as technicals, and I'll talk about the specific setup that I will use to trade each of them. So starting with CrowdStrike, you can see excellent growth here in terms of earnings. Last quarter up 125%, sales up 84%, and return on equity down 0.7%. And in terms of annual EPS, you can see in 2022, it's supposed to get a big jump up 257% with revisions up as well. The overall EPS rating is a 78, the Group RS is an A-, the SMR rating is a D, accumulation distribution is an A-, and the overall composite rating is a 97. You've got a nice increasing trend in fund ownership, and you do have one high-quality fund investing in it as well. And overall, you can see that the RS line is increasing, although you can see it's dipped a bit over the past few weeks, and overall the RS rating is a strong 96. So as for the entry setup, I want to see a break above the short-term pivot at 148.84 and eventually a breakout into all-time highs on above average volume. So that was CrowdStrike, and next up we've got our first solar stock, FSLR, and overall this group has been very strong. And taking a look at the earnings and sales, you can see excellent growth here. Last quarter, earnings up 294%, sales up 10%, and return on equity up 7.2%. And looking at the annual EPS estimates, you can see in 2020 it's supposed to grow 95%, and in 2021 a further 23%, with the revisions up as well. And the EPS rating is a 78, the Group RS is an A+, the SMR rating is a B, the accumulation distribution is a B+, and the overall composite rating is a 98. And you've got a nice increasing trend in the number of funds over the past 2 years, but you do not have any high quality funds investing into this stock. And overall, you can see it's in this kind of cup formation here with the RS line acting along with price, and overall the RS rating is a decent 90. And as for the entry setup, I want to see a break above this short-term pivot at 81.87 on above average volume, and hopefully it can break out from this longer-term base here, which is at about the same level. So that's FSLR, and next up we've got FTHM, which is a recent IPO right in its stage 1 IPO base. And overall, you can see excellent earnings growth the past quarter, up 114%, sales up 39%. And you can see it's not supposed to be profitable within the next 2 quarters. The EPS rating is a 73, the Group RS is an A, SMR rating is a D, accumulation distribution is an A-, and the overall composite rating is a 96. You can see that this stock has 7 funds in it at this time, and overall looking at the chart, you can see it had a blue dot on Friday, and overall it's just below the short-term pivot of the IPO base at 21.22. So that is the setup that I plan to use. I want to see a break above this IPO base pivot at 21.22 on above average volume. So next up, we've got GOGO, which is from my high tight flag scan. And overall, this is based purely on the technicals, which show a lot of accumulation. And overall, you can see that it's not profitable. It doesn't have great sales, and it's not supposed to be profitable within the next 2 years. It has pretty poor IBD ratings, except for accumulation distribution. And taking a look at the fund ownership, you can see it is actually decreasing over the past 2 years. But if you look at the chart, you can see very strong growth here and big moves on large volume. And then it goes pretty much tight, so this is a potential high tight flag, and the RS line is basing along with the price. So as for the entry setup, I want to see a break above the short-term pivot at 11.60. You can see it actually had a teal dot move on Friday, finishing right at the top of the trading range. So you want to see a continuation off that, potentially a green dot early next week. So that's GOGO, and next up we've got LVGO. And overall, you can see excellent growth here in terms of earnings and sales. Last quarter, earnings up 238%, sales up 125%, and return on equity up 3.3%. And overall, you can see in 2021, it's supposed to have another big year in terms of annual EPS, up 104%, although the revisions are down. The EPS rating is 78, the Group RS is a B+, the SMR rating is a C, accumulation distribution is an A-, and the overall composite rating is a 97. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend, and you do have 4 high-quality funds investing into this stock. And overall, you can see it's in this stage 2 consolidation and right under the pivot. And as for the RS line, you can see it's kind of going sideways along with price, and the overall RS rating is a very strong 99. And as for the entry setup, I want to see a break above the short-term pivot right here, and that's at 147.55. I want to see a move through that on above average volume. And overall, the entire kind of price structure looks very constructive. During this consolidation, volume is really decreasing, and it's pretty much below average throughout this entire move sideways. So that's LVGO, and next up we've got Pinterest. And overall, you can see decent growth a few quarters ago, but not so much the past 2 quarters. But overall, the move has been strong. And looking at the annual EPS estimates, you can see it's supposed to get a big boost in 2021, up 999%, with revisions up as well. The EPS rating is a 13. The group RS an A. SMR rating is a C. Accumulation distribution is an A-. And the overall composite rating is a 79. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend with a big jump the past 2 quarters. And you do have 2 high-quality funds in there as well. And overall, looking at the chart, you can see it's trending above those key moving averages. And the RS line is right near all-time highs. And the overall RS rating is a very strong 95. So as for the entry setup, I want to see a break above the short-term pivot at 45.20. And this is definitely more of a kind of swing trading play. And for a long-term position trade, the better entries were down here near the 21 EMA. So that was pins, and next up we've got RH. And taking a look at the earnings and sales, you can see there's not much growth here, except last quarter earnings were up 53%. And if we look at the annual EPS estimates, you can see in 2021 it's supposed to be up 48% and a further 10% in 2022. And overall, the EPS rating is a 91. The group RS is an A+. The SMR rating is not available. Accumulation distribution is an A-. And the overall composite rating is a 96. And overall, you got a nice increasing trend in the number of funds. And you can see you have 2 high-quality funds in there as well. And overall, you can see it's an earnings gap up, and it's been holding that 21 EMA nicely. And as for the entry setup, I want to see breakout above the short-term pivot at about 388.30 on above average volume, and eventually a challenge of the previous all-time highs at 410.49. So that's RH, and next up we've got our second solar stock, and that is Sunrun, which has been the leader in this space. And overall, you can see that there was good growth a few quarters ago, not so much the recent quarters, but overall the price action has been speaking for itself. And overall, looking at the annual EPS estimates, you can see it was supposed to be negative in 2020, but in 2021, it's supposed to become profitable once again, although revisions are down. The EPS rating is only a 2, the group RS an A+, the SMR rating is a D, the accumulation distribution is an A-, and the overall composite rating is a 73. And overall, you can see a nice increasing trend in the number of funds. You do have 1 high-quality fund in there as well. And overall, looking at the chart, you can see it's been increasing nicely above those key moving averages. And overall, the RS line has been increasing as well. And the overall RS rating is a 99. So as for the setup for this, I want to see either a breakout above this pivot at 82.42 or a bounce back and dot indicator early next week if it rebounds from this 21 EMA. So that is Sun. And next up, we've got SITM. And overall, looking at the earnings and sales, you can see it's not yet profitable, but does have decent revenue growth. And looking at the annual EPS estimates, you can see in 2021, it's supposed to increase in a big way, up 725%. And overall, the EPS rating is a 55. The group RS is an A. SMR rating is a D. Accumulation distribution is an A. And the overall composite rating is a 95. And as for the fund ownership numbers, you can see a nice increasing trend. You do have Fidelity Contra Fund owning shares as well. And looking at the chart, you can see it's been increasing nicely and it's pulled back slightly. And overall, the RS rating is a very strong 99, and the RS line is trending near all-time highs right with price. So as for the entry setup, I want to see a breakout above the short-term pivot at 88.78. And once again, this is more of a short-term swing trading setup. And you also had a teal dot on Friday, so you could buy it based on that setup, or if it has a green dot early next week. So next up on the list, let's take a look. We've got Tesla. And taking a look at the earnings and sales, you can see decent growth here, although sales were down last quarter. And overall, looking at the annual EPS, you can see in 2021, it's supposed to increase 69%, and the revisions are up as well. And for a lot of these, the reason that I'm focusing on the 2021 numbers instead of 2020 is basically because we're nearing the end of the year, and most likely funds and institutions are focusing on future growth rather the kind of growth anticipated for the rest of this year. And overall, you can see the EPS rating is a 78, the group RS an A+, the SMR rating is a C, accumulation distribution is a B-, and the overall composite rating is a 99. And as for the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend, and you have 4 high-quality funds investing into Tesla. And looking at the chart, you can see it's been kind of oscillating back and forth, kind of tightening up on this right-hand side, and overall the RS line has been following suit, and the overall RS rating is a very strong 99. And as for the entry setup, I want to see a breakout above 448.88, which is the short-term pivot, or potentially a dot indicator early next week. So that was Tesla. And last on our list, we've got Zoom. And overall, you can see excellent growth in terms of earnings and sales. Last quarter earnings up 999%, sales up 355%, and return on equity of 45.1%. And looking at the EPS estimates, you can see in 2021, it's supposed to grow 614%. And in 2022, a further 8% with revisions up as well. The EPS rating is an A4, the group RS is an A+, the SMR rating is an A, accumulation distribution is an A-, and the overall composite rating is a 99. And as for the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend, and do have Fidelity Contra Fund owning shares as well. And looking at the chart, you can see that after this big earnings gap up, it decreased somewhat, but then kind of formed this intermediate bottom and has moved up sharply and then gone sideways and is really tightening up on this right-hand side. And overall, the RS rating is a very strong 99, and the RS line is trending with the price right near all-time highs. So as for the entry setup, I want to see a breakout above the short-term pivot at 507.49, and it also had a teal dot on this past Friday. So if it breaks through this line, I'll be looking to add shares to my existing position. So overall, that is my plan for Zoom, and this is one of my top 3 setups, along with CrowdStrike above the short-term pivot and eventually challenging all-time highs, and also with pins above the short-term pivot as well. So that's it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed and found it useful, please go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys in future videos.